Donald Trump is suing CNN for defamation. He claims the network tarnished his image by calling him a racist, a Russian lackey, and he says they frequently compared him to Hitler. You
asked ABC out on this. Let's see how we do. Last time I went after them, they gave me $16 million. This one sounds even more lucrative. A true bunch of losers. Only Donald Trump would try to prove he wasn't threatening ABC by threatening ABC. And you almost have to feel sorry for the people who work for him, who try to clean.
Something just exploded in Hollywood politics, and it landed hard. Trump woke up stunned. Jimmy Kimmel chose full confrontation with receipts, and a brand new lawsuit entered the situation like it had been waiting its turn. The questions came fast. What exactly was said? Who filed what? And why are lawyers suddenly sweating harder than producers on Oscar night? This story moves quickly, takes sharp turns, and hits with unexpected force. So, grab the popcorn, silence your notifications, and pay attention because the ending is nothing like anyone expected.
Trump is trying to intimidate you or maybe others from coming forward?
Well, that's the whole purpose of this lawsuit. It's to harass and intimidate. It's not just to harass and intimidate me. It's also to put out a message to everyone.
And he's already figured out where to get the money. Trump today became the first president to sue the New York Times. He's suing the New York Times for $15 billion for defamation. $15 billion. Where does he even come up? These are like numbers my children make up when they're talking about money. I thought he said the New York Times was failing. He thinks they have $15 billion.
Before we go any further, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe because this is not one you want to miss. The chaos began the moment Trump decided that disagreement itself was something that should be handled in court. It was not about policy or outcomes anymore. It was about the nerve of anything existing outside his approval. Jimmy Kimmel did not rush to shut it down. Instead, he stepped back and let the spectacle unfold on its own.
He never threatened. J.D. Vance today made the claim that what the FCC chairman said was a joke, which, I don't know, maybe that was a joke? I don't know. They go to all these lengths to say, oh, it wasn't coercion. The president was just musing. And then the second Trump is alone, he sits on the toilet, he gets his grubby little thumbs on his phone, and he immediately blows their excuses to smithereens and says, it was ratings that got me fired.
Trump filing lawsuits the way other people file noise complaints quickly turned into something much bigger than a single headline. Courts, critics, companies, commentators, cameras, comedians, everything suddenly felt like it might receive legal papers for simply being present. Kimmel watched it all play out like a sketch that keeps escalating because no one ever cuts the microphone.
He sued for if he thought they were doing well. Trump announced the suit this morning. He wrote, today I have the great honor of bringing a $15 billion defamation and libel lawsuit against the New York Times, one of the worst and most degenerate newspapers in the history of our country. The Times has engaged in a decades-long method of lying about your favorite president, me, my family business, the America First movement, MAGA, and our nation as a whole. The New York Times has been allowed to freely lie, smear, and defame me for far too
Trump filing lawsuits the way other people file noise complaints quickly turned into something much bigger than a single headline. Courts, critics, companies, commentators, cameras, comedians, everything suddenly felt like it might receive legal papers for simply being present. Kimmel watched it all play out like a sketch that keeps escalating because no one ever cuts the microphone.
Wednesday. This was his big closer. Let Jimmy Kimmel rot in his bad ratings. And he does know bad ratings. He has some of the worst ratings any president has ever had. So, on behalf of all of us, welcome to the crappy ratings club, Mr. President. Next, he'll try to sue us. And I want to say good luck with that because we thought about it, we packed the courts, and we have a surprise ace up our sleeve, Mr. Judge Steve Hart.
Kimmel treated this habit not as a serious strategy, but as performance art. The kind that insists everyone else is ruining the show. The logic was painfully simple. If it disagrees, sue it. If it laughs, escalate. If it exists quietly, threaten it just in case. Kimmel did not argue with the absurdity. He stepped aside and allowed it to race forward, carrying its own punchline. The pattern became obvious quickly. Trump hears criticism. Trump escalates. Trump announces consequences. Then Trump acts shocked that consequences come with consequences. Kimmel leaned into that repetition, letting the audience feel how predictable it had become. Lawsuits stopped feeling legal and started feeling emotional, like dramatic letters written in all caps and delivered by certified mail. Each new target made the pattern louder instead of stronger, and Trump's unwavering confidence somehow made it even funnier.
Now, and then he follows it with, this suit is being brought in the great state of Florida. Uh-oh. And will be heard by Judge Dog the Bounty Hunter, my new appointee. Trump is, he won't win this. And the New York Times won't settle. Trump says the Times is run by a bunch of lefties. He claims they're a mouthpiece for the Democrats. And I have to say, I did do today's Wordle, and I don't know if you did, but he might be right.
There was no hesitation, no doubt, and no second thought. Only instant retaliation dressed up as moral certainty. Kimmel framed that confidence as the most exaggerated part of the entire story. The belief that filing something automatically proves something became a running joke hovering through the segment, like background noise that never stopped. As the scope expanded, the satire sharpened. Critics, watchdogs, businesses, former allies, and random people online all blended into the same category of opposition. Kimmel portrayed Trump's legal worldview as a place where accountability is always persecution, and pushback is always personal. The longer the enemy list grew, the weaker the reasoning looked. Eventually, it stopped resembling defense and started looking like reflex. Kimmel did not need to exaggerate because Trump's history already wrote the script. Every move followed the same path with a rotating cast. Letting the action speak at full volume was enough to drain their intimidation.
Of course, visited his new building this morning to take credit for his work bringing together the leaders of Rwanda and the Congo.
I want to thank the two courageous leaders. They are courageous leaders. They really are courageous leaders, great people. President Tshisekedi.
Perfect. Could we hear that again?
Tshisekedi.
Grew Trump's relationship with disagreement itself became the focus. Opposition was not something to address. It was something to erase. Kimmel highlighted that mindset by treating it with exaggerated seriousness, the kind that removes power instead of adding to it. The tighter Trump tried to hold control, the more unstable it appeared. One legal threat blended into the next, each reinforcing the same impulse. Trump did not just respond to criticism. He pursued it, challenged it, and then punished it for existing. Kimmel stitched these moments together into a seamless story of escalation without resolution. The humor came from the idea that lawsuits seemed to be the answer to everything, like trying to quiet a room by yelling at the furniture. The energy was loud but strangely empty, and that contradiction fueled the comedy.
When he wasn't sleeping, Rip Van Winkle was lying. He said grocery prices are down. They're not down. He said he's cutting prescription drug prices 900%. That's ridiculous. In the brief time he was conscious, though, he had a lot to say.
The Lincoln bathroom is now gorgeous. I took my physical. I got all A's, everything. I should get the Nobel Prize for every war, but I don't want to be greedy. Ilhan Omar is garbage. Boot edge. That was supposed to be.
As the minutes passed, Trump began to resemble a walking filing cabinet of grievances. The legal system became part of the image, less about results and more about spectacle. Kimmel let that picture settle, portraying Trump as someone who believed confrontation itself was proof of strength. Each threat felt urgent but unresolved, leaving behind a trail of noise that comedy eagerly reused. The pattern continued without variation. React, attack, repeat. Kimmel responded with consistency instead of outrage, and that contrast landed harder than confrontation ever could. Lawsuits became symbols rather than weapons, reminders of a worldview where being challenged is the ultimate offense.
His name is Tshisekedi, President Tshisekedi. From the Congo, they call it Congo. But don't interrupt Donald Trump when he's in the middle of a little stroke. This conflict between Rwanda and the Congo has been going on for decades. Millions of people have been killed. They're still fighting as of today. But that didn't stop Dr. Art of the Deal from acting like he mediated a dispute between neighbors over a broken sprinkler head.
I think they liked each other a lot. I spent time with them. I think they liked some people may be surprised.
By the time attention returned to the latest legal maneuver, the details barely mattered. Momentum had replaced meaning. Trump's dependence on escalation became the story, not any individual filing. Kimmel trusted the audience to notice that shift without spelling it out. What lingered was the image of someone endlessly offended by resistance, armed with paperwork and certainty. The comedy did not rush, toward an ending, because the behavior itself never paused. Each new move promised continuation, not closure. The laughter stacked slowly as seriousness collapsed under repetition. Nothing needed to explode. The absurdity stayed open-ended. Waiting for the next moment, disagreement earned a court date. Lawsuits no longer looked chosen. They looked automatic, like muscle memory triggered by friction.
Who has 5 engines on the back of a boat going in weird directions? The land of 1,000 lakes, or however many lakes they have, they got a lot of lakes. Somalians, let's go with the fat drug, FAT, for fat people. They said to me, would you like to take a cognitive test? I said, is it hard?
He's doing great. Don't worry about him at all. And his team, he's got quite a team. His team is crushing it.
The repetition was not dull. It was revealing. Every new legal threat looked nearly identical to the last, promising dominance and delivering familiarity. Trump never met criticism halfway. It was always maximum response, maximum drama, and maximum volume. Kimmel framed this habit as overcommitment to escalation, where every disagreement felt like the final boss fight in a game no one else realized they were playing. The intensity never fit the moment, causing the moment to collapse under its own weight. What made it sharper was Trump's belief that louder meant winning. Bigger threats, stronger language, thicker stacks of paper. Kimmel let that belief stand beside reality where outcomes refused to cooperate. The contrast explained itself. Over time, lawsuits stopped feeling reactive and began to feel preventative, as if anything that might oppose Trump was already a future defendant.
I think they've spent a lot of time killing each other, and now they're going to spend a lot of time hugging, holding hands, and taking advantage of the United States of America economically like every other country does. Look at them. Look at the way they love each other. Thank you.
Well, that doesn't look like love to me. That looks...
The legal system slowly turned into a shield against discomfort. Kimmel allowed that idea to breathe, sketching a world where disapproval itself required a filing fee. The satire moved smoothly from individual cases to instinct. Trump was no longer reacting to events, but to the idea that events could exist without him. Kimmel treated that mindset with heavy seriousness, as if it were a bold philosophy rather than a recurring tantrum dressed in formal. Language, the weight applied to something so thin caused it to fold inward. What once felt shocking quickly became routine. Kimmel highlighted how fast outrage turned into background noise. When everything is urgent, nothing stays special. Comedy thrived in that space between urgency and exhaustion, where control attempts only generated more attention for the very things meant to be buried.
To really get in there and make sure the president's colonoscopy didn't miss anything.
Spirit in our ranks since the election under President Trump is unprecedented. I've never seen anything like it as a soldier myself in uniform.
I think 2026 is going to be great for the American people. Thanks to you.
It's going to be great.
As I sit here today, I can't be more proud of how you did it, sir. You've created the greatest cabinet. It is a joy to be at this table.
Amen. Does anybody write about it? Nobody writes about it. That's okay.
Eventually, winning lawsuits felt less important than filing them. Visibility mattered more than victory. Kimmel framed the habit as branding where conflict kept attention alive through constant noise. The joke was not cruel, just observant. The pattern repeated too cleanly to ignore. Complaint appears. Retaliation follows. Resistance becomes disrespect. Kimmel never labeled the sensitivity. He let it sit quietly in the background, trusting the audience to see it. The louder the reaction became, the clearer the vulnerability looked. Over time, legal action shifted from process to symbol. It stopped being about courts and became about control through documentation. Kimmel played with that image, letting lawsuits represent emotional territory instead of necessity.
Which leader was that again?
Chiseki.
And then it was time for the Nobelephant in the room to take a well-deserved victory nap, one of many victory naps this week.
These two great Africans who are at the beginning, who started the Rwanda and the Nairobi processes. And beyond them, I wish to thank also all of the African leaders who...
The humor carried itself smoothly from one transition to the next without losing speed. Each example reinforced simplicity rather than complexity. Same response, new target. Same anchor, different address. Kimmel anchored the jokes in predictability. Knowing anticipation sharpened the laugh instead of ruining it. Trump's inability to ignore opposition powered the entire segment. Silence was never an option. Every criticism demanded response. Every challenge required punishment. Kimmel framed that impulse as both exhausting and endlessly renewable. The energy never faded, but the futility never changed. Gradually, the legal system itself faded into abstraction. Filings in courts became costume rather than substance. Kimmel stayed focused on behavior, because behavior told the real story. Paperwork was just a uniform. Restraint beat seriousness every time.
Less like a president and more like a property brother. He blew up the East Wing. He redecorated the Oval Office. He paved over the Rose Garden.
Take very good care of property. I paid for them. Marble, the most beautiful marble you've ever seen.
Wish the master builder would master build in private like the rest of us do.
The most beautiful floors, the most beautiful lights and chandeliers, and now it'll be the most beautiful ballroom anywhere in the world.
Wait a minute. Is it possible that he's planning to sell the White House?
The escalation grew so automatic that it began to parody itself. Trump reacted before the echo even finished fading. Kimmel let that speed become the punchline. There was no pause for reflection, only repetition until novelty gave up entirely. At its core, the comedy painted permanence. No lessons learned, no adjustments made, no strategies refined. Kimmel, quietly, suggested that nothing was ever resolved, only replaced. The cycle rolled forward with new paperwork. Trump shifted from aggressor to generator, producing conflict the way a machine produces exhaust. Kimmel never stated this outright. He let repetition make the case. Familiarity carried the audience forward without explanation, and intimidation dissolved into spectacle.
To the headache he is creating with his buddy RFK blaming autism on Tylenol. His press conference yesterday was an all-timer. Trump, Bobby Brainworm, and Dr. Roz strongly recommend that pregnant women stop taking Tylenol immediately, and the president was very persuasive making his case.
When the alternative is that nothing bad can happen, let's do it now. I was just saying to Bobby and the group, let's do it now.
As the segment continued, the accumulation of legal threats fell heavier than any single one, not because of consequence, but because of implication. This was the method. This was how disagreement was handled and attention was maintained. Kimmel allowed that realization to settle without forcing it. Laughter shifted from sharp bursts to sustained amusement as each moment stacked onto the last. Nothing wrapped up because closure was never the goal. Resolution requires reflection, and reflection never entered the process. One target faded, another replaced it, keeping the rhythm intact. Escalation became continuity, and continuity became the story. Each new filing did not signal change. It signaled consistency, promising that the next disagreement would trigger the same ritual in a different package.